And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Kit Carson Middle School Leadership Class and Caroline Wenzel, ASB. Come forward.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, I know. Okay, you guys, I'm going to read a little something here, and then you'll have a chance to say something if you like, okay? The late American writer Ruth Stafford Peele once said, "Find a need and fill it." Recently, students from the Kit Carson Middle School Leadership Class and students from Caroline Wenzel Elementary School did just that. On the evening of July 31st and August 1st, the playground structures at John Sloat and Caroline Wenzel Elementary Schools were set ablaze by an arsonist. As to be expected, students returning from summer vacation were saddened and disappointed that they could no longer use the play structures. The Sacramento City Unified Education Foundation issued a call to action to the community on September 3rd to raise money to help rebuild the playground structures. The students at Kit Carson and Caroline Wenzel answered the call, and as a result of their efforts, are being honored this evening. Caroline Wenzel students Ariana Hevron, a second grader, Andrew Raymond, a fourth grader, and Tristan Hevron, a sixth grader, were directly affected by the destruction of the play structures. The students turned their disappointment into action through a fundraising effort in conjunction with the school PTA, led by their parents, Ms. Coombs and Ms. Romeo. Caroline Wenzel raised more than $3,000 by selling world's finest chocolate candy bars. Ariana, Andrew, and Tristan led their student body and were the top three highest sellers. Their efforts exemplify their commitment to ensuring that not only their schoolmates, but children within the community at large would be able to once again enjoy the use of the play structure. Across town, the Kit Carson Middle School Leadership Class, taught by Ms. Larson, also responded to the call to action. This group of approximately 31 students, not directly affected by the vandalism, was compelled to participate in the fundraising efforts and led their entire student body in raising $360. Students sacrificed their lunch periods to set up booths and collect donations from their peers, made classroom visits to build awareness, and created a school-wide competition challenging to see who could raise the most money. When asked why they chose to contribute to the rebuilding efforts, one student said, "We have a beautiful campus, they should too." Anne Frank once said, "How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world." The students of Caroline Wenzel Elementary and the leadership class at Kit Carson Middle School are to be commended for their efforts to improve the lives of others. For that, the Sacramento City Unified School District is proud to recognize them as stellar students. Would you like to say a few words, or representatives of your groups say a few words? Don't feel compelled.
Okay, excuse me. I wanted to say, we all are, oh gosh. Well, so of course we were
Your
all,
name?
Oh, Serena.
Thank you.
Of course we were all elementary school students too, so we all got to play on the jungle gym. It was like our happiness of school. So the fact that, they got theirs destroyed, it was kind of like, wow, because, every student should be able to have fun. So.
Great. Anybody else?
My name is Tiana, and so what happened basically kind of devastated us all, because even though we don't know these kids or where the school was, we all had that moment, like Serena said. We were having the memory of playing on the jungle gym and going down the slide and having fun with our friends, but imagining that something that meant so much to you, a lot, kind of hurts. So we all decided just to do it because one action can cause another. Say if we have our gym or set or basketball courts were destroyed, we know that some other school that we never heard of might do something the same for us. What we did. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Alana. I personally felt that because it wasn't their fault that their playgrounds got destroyed, that we should have done something to help them. Because as much as we earned, we only earned not as much as them, but it helped. So that just made us feel better for helping our community.
Great. I think that we're going to have a photo opportunity here with your board members. Huh? Somebody told me that I didn't have to do this right now. "15 letters. Done. Okay, this meeting of the Sacramento City Unified School Board is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the government affairs channel on the Comcast and Sure West cable systems. Today's meeting will air Saturday, January 11th at 11 p.m. and Sunday, January 12th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14 and webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker identification form located in the back of the community room and give it to Chief Communications Officer, Mr. Ross, right over here, prior to the conclusion of the item's presentation. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Responses to requests by the public will be posted on the district website prior to the next board meeting. Please limit comments during public comment to items not listed on the agenda. If you are found to be commenting on an item that is on the agenda, you will be asked to defer until your item comes up on the agenda. Please turn off all cell phones or place them on silent or vibrate. Announcements. Action taken in closed session. Mr. Behrens?
No action taken in closed session, Mr. President.
Thank you. Agenda adoption. Moved by Member Cuneo, second by Member Arroyo. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And we now have public comment.
We have no comments on 7.0.
No comments on 7.0. The consent agenda. Do I have a motion? Moved by Vice President Wu, second by Vice President Pritchett. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Communications, employee organization reports, CSA, SCTA,
Good evening, members of the board and Interim Superintendent Noguchi. Happy New Year. And with the new year and new leadership, we're still hoping for a new start. As to the core waiver, we continue to be concerned about this attempt by local politicians and education reform advocates to privatize our district. We are also very concerned about how this will affect our district's general fund with no input from this board, the public, or teachers. Interim Superintendent Noguchi, has expressed support of the waiver, which is disheartening, but we've agreed to meet with her and try to understand why she thinks this is a good idea. We look forward to that conversation. This brings me to a conversation that the district should have had with SETA prior to making a very poorly thought out decision. I want to make sure that this board is aware of the academic office decision to force the administration of a Common Core Task 1 assessment. I spoke to you about this in the board meeting in December. This decision has been extremely disruptive for many teachers, both at the elementary and middle school level. In fact, at our representative council today, it was one of the main topics of conversation. The tests must be hand-scored, and in many cases, this work will take days to complete. It was something that was only just recently given to our teachers before break, and they are not being given adequate amount of paid time to complete the work. We have tried to work with the district's academic office to resolve this issue, but were unsuccessful. Today, we were forced to take action towards filing a grievance for the unpaid work under our contract, along with unfair labor practice charge. This is no way to work together, and it is very unfortunate that we must once again take such drastic action to ensure our members' rights are respected. Please ask the academic office to reverse this decision. On a brighter note, SETA wants to speak in favor of Agenda Item 10.2. We want to support our brothers and sisters in the building trades. The passage of Item 10.2 will ensure them union negotiated wages, health care, and pension benefits. This agreement will also ensure union-supported, union-driven training programs for their members and opportunities for our students who are interested in trades as a career. Doing so after the Fitch's rating downgrade of the district is courageous and sends a clear message. Your support of core union values within this agreement is to be commended. I and my members value the same core union beliefs and union benefits that your vote tonight in favor of 10.2 will endorse and support. Thank you very much.
SEIU, Teamsters, UPE, District Parent Advisory Committees, the Community Advisory Committee, District Advisory Council, School Site Councils, District English Learner Advisory Committee, Gifted and Talented Education Advisory Committee, Indian Education Parent Committee, Sacramento Council of PTAs. 9.3, Interim Superintendent's Report, Dr. Noguchi.
Thank you, President Kennedy. First, I would like to thank everyone who has reached out over the past couple weeks, both to wish me well and to offer their support. I am truly touched by both the kindness and the support that has been offered. We have a fantastic community, and I'm honored to serve the students, teachers, parents, staff, and the Board of Education, all who work tirelessly each day to make this district a success. I also want to take a moment to introduce myself a little more properly, a little more thoroughly, as many of you don't know me. While I'm new to this seat today, I am not new to public education. I've worked in education for 23 years, starting as a substitute teacher for Sacramento City Unified School District, right out of school from San Diego State, and then later as a mathematics teacher. I served in a variety of positions over the course of the 23 years, and I worked in the professional development office for a number of years until the state budget in the 1990s, for those of you who remember, created such a budget deficit that the district offices were once again moved out and found different jobs at the sites. At this point, I moved to site-based administration, which I was not going to do. I was never going to be a site administrator, although I found a love for administration when I got to the site. At that time, I worked at 4 different high schools as an assistant principal, often acting as a principal in the role as principals took leave. Most of these schools were in the border portion of Sacramento, Valley High area, Florin. I later was a proud principal of James Rudder Middle School in Elk Grove, and then moved on to a director of education for the secondary schools in Elk Grove. Working with high poverty, English learners, and diversity has been my passion and will be my life's work. When an opportunity came up to apply for the position as an area assistant superintendent, I didn't hesitate. I completed my doctoral studies at the University of Pacific in Stockton, focusing on professional development for both middle school and high school principals, really looking at what do they need to support the work that they do on a daily basis. Serving schools is my passion, and I'm excited to expand my opportunity and my learning in the next couple months as interim superintendent. I am grateful to the board for this opportunity. We have a lot of work to do this spring, shifting to the Common Core standards and preparing for online testing, balancing the needs of the district, sites, and parents as we move to a brand new student information system, complying with the state's new laws for the district that are part of the LCFF, the Local Control Funding Formula, and working with labor and community and staff and the board to ensure that we begin to bring about a more stable budget for this district. And of course, implementing new accountability systems, both under the core waiver and our own guide to success. As we will later discuss tonight, while the fiscal outlook for schools for California appears to be much, much better, we have a long way to go. It took 10 years to get to where we're at. It is not going to be reversed overnight. It's going to take us all working together. With that said, I am excited for the opportunity and the challenges that await, and I look forward to doing my best. I welcome both encouragement and feedback as we work together to continue to build this school district into the flagship district of this region. While we need to get our financial house in order, this is sure, the foundations for being the best district in this county is truly in place. This can only happen if we work together, building on what we currently have in place and looking at how to better work together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Noguchi. 9.4, President's Report, no report at this time. 9.5, Student Member Report, as she is not here, no report at this time. 9.6, Information Sharing by Board Members. People have moved, I have to look. Vice President Pritchett.
Thank you, President Kennedy. I just have a few things to report on. A couple months ago, I was summoned by the school board to attend DAC meetings and help them through some of their trials and tribulations that they've been heading down. And I'm proud to report that they are on a great road for success. In fact, next Tuesday is their executive or their board meeting, their monthly board meeting, and they'll be electing in a brand new executive board at that point. So once they have that done, they have a lot of work to be done after that, but they're on a good road for success. I also wanted to report that right before the Christmas break, I had the honor of attending the Golden Empire Elementary School Student Awards, and they allowed me to put the little medallions over the child's neck, which was just a great honor. And I just wanted to mention that I really did appreciate the honor of being able to go and do that. In fact, they gave me my own award, which I'll hold near and dear to my heart forever. And lastly, last night I attended the Parent Leadership Academy along with Board Member Hanson. And these parents have endured 10 weeks of training of our district, and I myself was in one of the graduating classes of the Parent Leadership Academy, so I know what they've been doing. And I wanted to just say that I was really impressed on the presentations that they gave and how well they really knew our district and their solutions on how to fix a lot of our problems that we have. Some of them being clean and safe schools, or ideas about our core waiver, and also I'm trying to think what else to do. Oh, and they had one on parent engagement, which was fantastic to hear other parents talking about unique ideas to get other parents involved. So if any of you are out there, just keep on trucking and stay engaged. Thanks.
10.0 Board Workshop, Strategic Plan, and Other Initiatives. 10.1 Local Control Accountability Plan Planning Process. Dr. Noguchi? You're not Dr. Noguchi.
You're leading us off.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Tonight I will provide a brief overview, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Ross and Ms. Mua to discuss our communication and engagement outreach efforts for the LCAP, the Local Control Funding Formula Plan. Doing the slide. Okay. As you know, last year, Governor Brown signed the Local Controlled Funding Formula, the LCFF, into law at California Middle School. At this time, it set in motion both changes to public school funding and changes in accountability requirements. In general terms, the LCFF gives the district greater flexibility in using state resources. However, there are still many requirements outlined by the state. One requirement is that the district will need to be explicit and show how we've worked together to meet the state's expectations for schools. Every K-12 district is now required to develop, adopt, and annually update a 3-year local control accountability plan, the LCAP. The LCAP is a tool that outlines the engagement and communication efforts used to support the building of our budget that is outlined through the LCFF. Slide 3. The purpose of the LCAP document is to set yearly goals for the district that are aligned to the state's 8 educational priorities. Because the LCAP is tied to the funding flexibility of the LCFF, the funding formula, it must include details for how low-income students, English language learners, and foster youth are served in alignment to the state and local priorities. One of our tasks with the LCAP is to demonstrate through data how we are addressing each of the state's 8 priorities. These priorities are student achievement, student engagement, school climate, basic services, the Common Core state standards, access to a broad curriculum, parent involvement, and other student outcomes. The state is currently working to create the templates that we will use to create this plan. We expect the template out in March. We will have it'll be released between now and March. You have from March to June to be able to develop this plan and get this into the state. So it's a pretty short timeline. Since this is a process we will be repeating throughout the year, we want to make sure we put something in place that can be a model that we can follow, rather than just a one-size-fits-all for this particular program. As you know, we've begun to hold discussions with stakeholders about our goals and our resources. I want to take a minute and talk about the governor's budget that was released earlier today in an effort to bring some context to our funding. Remember, this is just the beginning of the state's budget process. While there's going to be some great news released out in the front of the Sacramento Bee tomorrow, and again next week, this is just the beginning of the process. Like every year, we likely won't have a definite idea of next year's funding until after the state passes its budget in June, which for those of you who've been in California a while, that's pretty good news. The governor's message at the press conference this morning was to urge restraint because the state has billions of dollars in unpaid bills and unfunded liabilities. I think that is a wise path for all of us to take. Whatever new revenue our district may or may not receive will be offset by increased costs and declining enrollment, which won't go away for next year. The district experienced incredible, painful reductions over the past 10 years. It's going to take more than a year to get back to where we need to be. Repairing the damage will take time. We likely won't rebuild as quickly as other districts at the state partly because we opted to sustain programs over a longer period of time where districts around us had cut much earlier. With that said, tonight we will share our thoughts on the communication and engagement strategies that will help us work through the LCAP process. With this effort, we want to avoid the rounding up the usual suspects to get the information to engage the public. Our goal was to tap into the incredible amount of diversity in our district, all the demographics, the economic diversity that is a hallmark of this district. As you'll hear in a moment, we have a well thought out, detailed plan for getting feedback and input using an engagement process that we think can be a model for years to come. We welcome your insights tonight as this model will move forward. And now I turn it over to Engage.
Thank you and good evening. Good evening, President Kennedy, Dr. Noguchi, and board members. It's unusual for me being on this at this microphone. I'm proud to be here tonight with Tu Mua, who not only oversees our parent engagement office, but is also, as you know, one of our new area assistant superintendents and has the unique skill set of having also served as a principal in our district. So she brings a skill set not just in parent engagement, but also having been a site leader and understanding the importance of engagement and communication at the site level. When we look, if you can turn the next slide, please. When we look at our engagement efforts through the LCAP, and really our engagement and communication efforts in general, it's important that we don't rely on just one strategy. There is no silver bullet for effective communication and outreach. It has to be a combination of all the tools in our tool belt, so to speak. So our goal as we lay out this plan for engaging our community and getting a broad voice of students, parents, staff, community members, and everyone in Sacramento with regards to the LCAP is to make sure that we have as much diversity, as Dr. Noguchi mentioned, in the voice as possible. The three main tenets of our plan with regards to the LCAP outreach are our LCAP advisory committee meetings, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, school site engagement, and our community planning process, which is a new technique and a new strategy that Tu will share a little bit about and define for you, but really at its core is community organizing and a grassroots organic way to get a voice and get good quality feedback, authentic feedback in decisions we make. So to begin with, we have the LCAP Advisory Committee meetings. These meetings began in November, and we've had two so far. At our last meeting on December 12th, we had over 160 attendees. Parents, students, staff representing 51 different school sites were there, as well as 20 different community partners. For those of you who were in attendance, you noticed a lot of our school site leaders were here. That was by design. We recognize, and we'll talk in a little bit about the importance of school site communication, but we recognize that the most authentic form of communication and engagement is happening at school sites. We recognize that the vast majority of parents, when they have questions or concerns, they go to their site leader. That's where the relationships are the strongest. We want to make sure we're capitalizing on that with important conversations like with the LCAP. The LCAP Advisory Committee meetings were never intended to be an inclusive part of this process, right? This is part of a larger outreach effort. All engagement can't happen here at the Cerna Center. This is only a small part of the parents that are engaged in our district, and we have to make sure that we are taking the message and the outreach to them at school sites and the one-on-one conversations. That being said, it's important to have a venue and an avenue where everybody can get involved. Maybe you're not a parent in our district, but you still deserve and want a voice in this process. For whatever reason, you can't make a meeting at your school site. Again, the purpose of the multi-layered approach is to make sure that nobody's falling through the cracks during this process. School site engagement. So what we learned through, I think, a successful process in creating our sustainable facility master plan was that if we provide our principals with a toolkit and resources to gather and collect feedback at their school sites, it can be a powerful resource in really reaching people where they are. Our principals have a lot on their plates, more so than ever, so it's incumbent on us to make sure that process is as turnkey as possible for them. So what we did with the Sustainable Facility Master Plan, if you recall, was we provided talking points, parent letters, draft Connect Ed messages, and tools for them to engage with parents, to get parents to a meeting at their site. It doesn't have to be an independent meeting. It can be an existing PTA meeting, a school site council meeting, ELAC meeting, whatever meeting they have at their site that's relevant, including faculty meetings. Then through that process, we provided them a tool so that they could easily aggregate and collect data, feedback during that process, send it all here to the district office where we compiled it and really looked at trends throughout the different schools and throughout the district. We're going to use that same model with this process. At the end of this month, we're providing principals with a toolkit, asking them to have individual meetings at their sites. And we believe that, again, in combination with the other efforts, this is a great way to get a broad and diverse group of voices involved in this process. And now I'm going to turn it over to Tu, who will talk a little bit about our community planning process and the PEV model.
Good evening, President Kennedy, Interim Superintendent Noguchi, and members of the board. My name is Tu Mua, and I currently am the Interim Area Assistant Superintendent of Area 1 schools, as well as Family and Community Engagement. It's really my honor to lead this work, particularly for the local LCAP, in engaging our community members, not only because it's near and dear to my heart, but because as a former teacher, former principal, as well as a student of English language learner parents, I understand that engagement does not occur here at Cerner Center, but it occurs at the homes of our families and of our children's home. What I'm going to share with you is not a new process by any means, new to us, but not new to our much smarter partners, our nonprofit partners and our grassroots partners. Community planning process is really a model utilized to get authentic input and feedback on important topics such as our LCAP. We have every goal to reach out to engaging with what we're calling public education volunteers, but really what it is it's our engagement leaders to go out and engage on a one-to-one basis to 10 to 20 members in their networks and get authentic feedback based on those 8 state priorities, but also PEVs or parents, community members who represent English language learner families, who represent Title I families, who are bilingual, as well as who are foster youth advocates. We know that those 3 special subgroups were the intention of the governor's creation of LCFF, and so we at the district office will follow that. We're also hoping that in utilizing this very authentic, transparent model, that the community will see it as our effort and our reaching out with an olive branch and truly letting them know that we want to hear their voices, we want to hear what their priorities are, and at the same time, we will not overpromise what we can't give, but that indeed we will tell them specifically what it is we can promise and hold out and live to their input. It's also critical that the district's work is owned by all stakeholders, that we are hand-in-hand partners in working together to creating and writing an LCAP together. As Gabe have said on many occasions, as well as I've heard, this is, in what I believe, the closest engagement plan to talking on people forward. Furthermore, we will be tracking the feedback via questionpro.com Furthermore, we'll be tracking the data to ensure that we have real live data. So we will know if we have perhaps more input from East Sacramento and we need more input from South Sacramento. So we will be able to track demographics as it comes. And as the data come, we will be able to ensure that we mobilize our public education volunteers to the areas of this district that is not being engaged. This visual is a very simple visual of our plan with the timeline. I know Gabe will go into details, but you can see here that this month we plan on drafting a survey tool. We will also be recruiting and training public education volunteers. My hope is that every board member will also serve as a public education volunteer and speak to your constituency and your stakeholders and gather their feedback. We'll give them the month of February to engage, to collect data, to allow us to aggregate the data. In the month of March, we'll come back and review the feedback data. And through that first cycle of data, our writing team will start to create a draft plan, at which point with that draft plan, we hope to then engage in a second cycle of this community planning process in which we not only use those same public education volunteers from the first cycle, but also branch out and continue to recruit more public education volunteers to gathering input on that first draft. And then finally in April, we hope to review the feedback and revise that first draft into a final draft for you. On top of our parents and our students and our families, we also hope to engage with community partners that we know have a vested interest in seeing our district do well. Partners such as certainly our labor partners, our district advisory committee partners, district English learner advisory committee, our community advisory committee, our Sacramento Council of PTAs, our school advisory council, our parent-teacher home visit project friends, Asian Resources, La Familia, California Endowment, Building Healthy Communities, the Sacramento's Children's Home, Child Protective Services, City Year, Legal Services of Northern California, Sacramento Area Congregation Together, Black Parallel School Board, as well as Hmong Women's Heritage Association. Certainly this list is not it. This is just an example of partners who we have already begun to engage with or who attended our December LCAP Advisory Committee. At this time, I'll turn it back to Gabe Ross to talk about the timeline.
Thank you, too. So as you can see, really the goal is to have these three layered approaches going on simultaneously. As Tu mentioned, the first step really is laying the groundwork. During the month of January, the Tu team will be recruiting and training our public education volunteers. As she noted, hopefully the board members will participate and engage with your networks and of colleagues and constituents. We'll be creating a draft survey tool. This survey is important because not only does it not only will the survey serve as a consistent way to gather data, right? So we can make sure that the information the PEVs are gathering in their one-on-one conversations looks the same as the information principals are gathering at their school sites. So we can really aggregate the data and look at trends in what people are saying and what people are asking for as it relates to the LCAP and the budget. But it's also asked to serve as an education tool. We know that for many people out there, the LCAP is a mystery, let alone the district budget, even before the new policies and regulations. So the survey will also serve as an education tool and a tool to inform our community. We'll be providing, as I mentioned, support for principals to make that process as easy as possible. And as we get more information during the month of January from the State Board of Education, as well as the governor and the budget process, we'll continue to update and embed that new information into this process. February will be a month where we really are getting this data. That's where, as Tu mentioned, we're getting the feedback real time from the PEVs. It allows us to adapt and adjust our strategies on the fly, which is really a valuable asset to have. And then in March and May, really is about taking all that feedback, embedding it in a draft plan, taking that back out to another round of PEVs, maybe some of the same people, maybe some different folks, again, a broad group of voices, before ultimately bringing the final plan to the board in May and June. So with that, I think that's the summary of our plan. I'll open it up for questions from the board.
Do we have any public comment?
We have one. Darlene Anderson.
I think the most important thing about the districts getting ready to go through this transition is about which students should the district be targeting, and to think about the failure rate of African American students in the district, and the minimal outreach or the minimal conversation in this community in regards to the failure is really rather sad. And the outreach to the Black community is really rather sad because I see students all the time withdrawing from SES because their parents are pulling them out, trying to save them, putting them in the district's alternative program. And we all know the district has not presented any success rate of the alternative programs. Although the children may be getting high school diplomas, these kids are not getting employed in Sacramento. I think when you start looking at the public education system, I think you have to look at it as a service. And it's a service that first should do no harm. But when you look at the African American community in Sacramento, there has been great harm done because of the zero tolerance policies in this district. And some people seem to think that we just need a little bit more time. And I'm asking time for what? Because of the infractions that were basically listed at CDE's website for behavior. It's really, really high. But we all know 55% of the kids placed in the alternative programs were African American. And that's 55%. You say, what's the number? I got the 55% from the district, from my complaint. But I got the number from CDE's website, and it's over 38, or about 3,000 students. It's about 3,000 students that were placed in the alternative program. I don't want to jump it way high, but I know it's high. And so I think that there really needs to be a public conversation in regards to what this district is going to do, not in regards to changing the way it funds the programs, but in regards to addressing the needs of the African American student. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson. Any others? For Hanson.
Thank you for the presentation. I'm curious, is the LCAP Advisory Committee, is that a set group of people, or is that anyone who shows up at the meetings?
It's really anyone who chooses to participate. When we began this process, and again, we began the LCAP Advisory Committee before we had very much information about this process at all, and we're sort of building the plane as we fly it, so to speak. Our goal was, as I think Dr. Noguchi mentioned, we didn't just want to round up the usual suspects. And while we have such appreciation for the folks who participate in every district committee and are involved in so many ways, it's so important with this work that we get a real diversity of voices. So we made it clear from the very beginning with the advisory committee that anybody is welcome. We continue to welcome anybody who wants to participate, but it's by no means, as you can see, the only way to be involved in this process.
The upcoming meetings on the January 22nd, February 13th, are those here at the Cerna Center?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. So I think I've heard from a lot of people that they've been engaged in the process. So I'm encouraged to see that. I just want to make a recommendation. It's not on the district's calendar on the website, nor is there a link that's on the homepage about the LCAP that I could find looking at it. Just thought that'd be valuable to put on there just so we have more ability to make sure everyone has an opportunity to engage. So thanks for the good work so far.
Thank you.
Vice President Wu.
Thank you. May I ask you when will your PEV training begin? Particularly, will we board members be sent invitations since you're asking us to participate in that?
Absolutely. If I can ask for the grace of 1 to 2 weeks to allow our writing team to create the community planning survey with thoughtful questions related to all 8 state priorities. And then we hope to train, certainly with all of you good folks, as well as our community members, within 1 to 2 weeks' time.
Thank you. And then I'd like to just say to my fellow board members, Member Rodriguez was at the last LCAP meeting. I've been at both of them. So I would encourage you, if not to participate, at least to get a sense as to what the dynamics as well as the demographics are. And that's, by coming here, it's given me an idea of insisting on staff that we do other types of work in terms of outreach, because I kind of sense what portions of the community might not be at that table. So I'm encouraged by the participation. I thank the staff for its efforts. Thank you.
Any other board questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much. 10.2, project labor agreement process. I will be handing the gavel over to Vice President Wu, as I will recuse myself at this time.
Good evening, Vice President Wu, board members, Dr. Noguchi. Kathy Allen was actually scheduled to present this item tonight, but was unable to be with us. The first project stabilization agreement was approved by the board in August of 2005. The agreement has been extended from time to time, and most recently in September 2012. In October 2011, the legislature enacted Senate Bill 922, which added some taxpayer provisions. These have been spelled out in detail in the executive summary. Before the board tonight is the proposed project labor agreement. We are suggesting the name change from project stabilization agreement to project labor agreement to more accurately reflect the current industry terminology. This agreement incorporates all of the requirements of SB 922 and represents the most recent understanding between the district and the relevant signatories to the agreement. The agreement puts renewed emphasis on the Construction Technology Academy and the Academy Steering Committee to enhance training for our students. In addition to providing construction trade opportunities to our high school students, this agreement also intends for the Academy Steering Committee to explore opportunities to utilize the Academy's construction skills training program, including worksite safety and proper use of construction tools, to enhance the skills of district maintenance staff. That concludes my introduction. Legal counsel who has assisted with crafting this agreement is here if you have any questions tonight.
Thank you, Jim. Do we have any public comment?
We have 5 public comments on 10.2. If our speakers can please line up behind the podium in the order you're called. Nicole Gehring, Richard Markison, Pastor Joseph Klopton, Dennis Canavari, and Howard Lawrence.
Good evening, Dr. Noguchi and Interim President Wu, I guess, for this subject, and members of the Sac City USD Board of Trustees. Nicole Gehring with Associated Builders and Contractors. We are a nonprofit construction trade association with 501 members representing 22,000 workers throughout Northern California, and many of our members are located in the Sacramento region and perform commercial, industrial, and public works construction, and we've done many projects in the school district prior to the implementation of the project labor agreement in 2005. Our members range from some of the largest construction companies in the Sacramento region to companies with 5 or fewer employees. We also operate state-approved apprenticeship programs in several trades. We've got a long-standing commitment to excellence in training and preparation for the workplace of our contractor members and its employees. We pride ourselves in ensuring that our programs provide the citizens of California with a safe and skilled workforce. We also support fair and open competition and increasing the opportunities for all workers regardless of their affiliation. We are here before you this evening to state our opposition to your proposed project labor agreement. Before you vote on this, I'd like for you to do your research and make sure that you get all the facts about project labor agreements. This research shows that this agreement could potentially cost you or diminish 20% of your bond dollars, which is over $80 million, which could result in up to 4 to 5 projects or classroom technology that could have been used for the students. According to the most comprehensive school study in California measuring the cost of PLAs in construction, they found 13 to 15% in increased costs on PLAs. And just recently in the West Contra Costa Unified School District who use PLAs, they've had to put in an extra $26 million into their budget that wasn't even approved in order to cover 3 projects where they weren't receiving more than one bidder. So they had to add $26 million for 3 separate projects. And also, just recently, the Contra Costa Community College District, their PLA in the past year has cost them an extra $5 million due to reduced bidders on their project. I would recommend that you possibly amend your PLA to include a 1-year review of the PLA to see, how it's working for you, and some accountability measures as well, including if you don't get 3 bidders or less, rebid the job without a PLA. It looks at this time that I've run out of time, so I encourage you to spend some more time researching and learning everything about PLAs for those of you that are not familiar with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gehring.
Good evening, board members and staff. I'm Richard Markison. I reside in the district, in Director Wu's district. And I'm here representing the Western Electrical Contractors Association, the Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors of California, and the Air Conditioning Trade Association in opposition to the project labor agreement, but at least you are calling it what it is and no more hiding it behind project stabilization agreement or some other euphemism. I was really surprised, however, that inasmuch as you've had a project labor agreement in place since 2005, that your staff report is completely devoid of any evidence that it has improved contracting in the district. There is nothing in the report at all that talks about the benefits to the district, the costs, how the projects have proceeded with it. And in fact, the only cited element of a project labor agreement to benefit the district is the possibility of eliminating work stoppages. And these are the same people who will be executing the agreement on behalf of organized labor. The best analysis, as Nicole pointed out, for the cost of PLAs for school districts means that you will be paying a premium for your construction under a PLA. And actually what the district will be doing, if you approve the project labor agreement, is compelling unionization for all workers and their employers without any vote under the provisions of the National Labor Relations Act, which is the real reason that organized labor frequently encourage folks such as yourself to adopt a PLA. It completely eliminates any requirement for the business agents who are in the back of the room to go out and organize, because all they need to do is persuade a majority of you that forced unionization is a sound public policy, and they win. We urge you to reject this and support fair and open competition for school construction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Markison.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Pastor Joseph Clopton, local clergy here, and in coordination or collaboration with the Sacramento Act, which is Area Congregations Together. And I am a supporter of the PLA, primarily being that any time a tool or initiative can be put in place to deter dropout, I support that. One thing that we have to remember that all students are not inclined to be in the classroom. But if an opportunity for a student to gain a skilled trade that they can use later on in life, that will provide them the American way, if you will, I support that. One thing that I used to tell my students when I was a teacher for special education in the state of Florida is called exceptional student education. And one thing I used to tell them is that even though you're not on the diploma track, even though you may not get a high school diploma, when a plumber shows up at someone's door or electrician, the question is, can you fix the leak? Or can you fix the electrical problem? We're not asking, do you have a degree at the door? We may ask, do you have a license? But the key is that if a student is given an opportunity to have a skill that they can use later on in life, that's more beneficial than declining this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor Joe.
There it goes. Go reset. Interim Superintendent, board members, my name is Dennis Canaveri. I'm here representing the Sacramento Sierra Building and Construction Trades Council. First, I'd like to thank your staff for working so diligently to update the original PLA that was adopted in 2005 to conform with the current laws and the industry standards. Second, I'd like to acknowledge the foresight to continue the Construction Academy component of this PLA. Sacramento City Unified School District has set an industry standard by maintaining the opportunity for your students to experience a construction career opportunity that will lead to a great middle-class job. I also have copies here that I'll leave from Dr. Carol Zabin and UC Berkeley Labor Center with information regarding the positive community effects of using a project labor agreement and talking about the actual costs. In closing, the Sacramento Sierra Building and Construction Trade Council supports adoption of this PLA as amended, updated, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Mr. Canterbury.
Good evening, Mr. President, Superintendent Noguchi. My name is Howard Lawrence, and I'm part of the leadership of Sacramento ACT, Area Congregations Together. And I'm here tonight to also speak in favor of this item and to talk a little history. Sacramento ACT was actually a community partner with the district and the building trades in helping bring the 2005 agreement into being here in this district. We're happy to see it continued. Our information indicated that because of the state's prevailing wage laws, that it really was not an economic burden to the district, but the way this agreement is constructed, it'll provide economic benefit and good return on the bond money investment that we all work to help create. And we're really very excited and very supportive of the Construction Career Academy. And I think Pastor Clopton spoke very clearly of the values of Sacramento ACT and about how we need to reach out to all the different students in our community. And this is an opportunity for us to use our own resources to reach students that otherwise would not have that opportunity. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Are there any others? Thank you for the public comments. Are there any comments or questions from my colleagues up on the dais? I see none. I have one question, Mr. Dobbins. This is a conference action, so when will we be seeing it again for action?
It'll be at the next board meeting, as I believe it's at the 23rd.
Very good. Thank you. Yes. I didn't see it. Member Hanson.
Thank you. I did want to just mention a little bit of personal knowledge that the apprentice, I think I'm very excited to see the Construction Academy training program that's going to be part of this. I think that's something that will definitely benefit our students. I think that's something that's very important with, not a majority of our students go to college. So what are the other things that we're helping our students do while they're graduating from our schools to be successful? Some are going to choose to go to college with military service, but an opportunity to be in an apprenticeship and serve in a construction program is really a great opportunity for a good number of our students. I think the inclusion of that in the PLA is something that's really important for our students, for them to have a good future career. It's an honorable career, and it's one that can provide a lifetime of good wages. I think that's something that's very positive for our district. And I know that the apprenticeship programs that are run by the programs that are going to be signatory to this agreement have high graduation rates. And I think that's something that, we certainly support, something that's important to us as a school district. And I do note that I was just doing a little bit of research that LAUSD has a project labor agreement. Obviously, they have billions of dollars in construction programs, and the PLA actually saved them 1% on their anticipated costs of their construction program. So there are demonstrated savings from using a PLA. And lastly, just to address one of the previous speakers mentioned that PLAs did an increased cost of 13 to 15%. Well, since a PLA only covers the wages on a job, the fact is for construction projects, wages are only about 15% of the entire cost of any construction program. If you figure in the cost of the land, the cost of the materials, the cost of the architecture, the cost of all the different pieces that go into a construction, the 100% that's there, the wages for the workers on the projects is only about 13 to 15%. So to say that the cost of the whole of a project goes from 1 million, goes up 13 to 15%, there's absolutely no way that that pencils out. So I just recommend you might want to check your facts on that before you come back for our next meeting in a couple weeks. But I think the district's done a good job on this. I appreciate the work that went into it. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Hanson. No others? Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Vice President Wu. Item 10.3, resolution number 2773, 180-day wait period exemption. Ms. McCarn?
Thank you. Good evening, Interim Superintendent Noguchi, President Kennedy, and members of the board. Just like the classroom. Susan Pointer is a dedicated employee, and she's retiring February. We're happy for her. Sad for us, happy for her. The services that she provides are essential to the support of school sites, departments, and the community, and this is a request to waive that 180-day requirement to allow her to come back and provide specialized training. Essentially, that's what this is. There are more things up there, but essentially it's all saying that very same thing. The board acceptance or approval of this recommendation would allow us to do that. This is a position that we intend to fill at the end of the month, and again, the transition time is helpful for services. Questions?
We have no public comment. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, we have a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Vice President Wu, seconded by Vice President Pritchett. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Thank you.
Thank you.
11.0, business and financial information reports. That's file. Future board meetings, 12.0, January 23rd, 2014, 4:30, closed session, 6:30, open session here at the Cerna Center. And the first meeting in February is February 6th, 2014, 4:30, closed session. Before we adjourn, I would like to say that we will adjourn in the memory of board member Kovalchuk's grandmother who recently passed away. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Vice President Wu, seconded by Member Arroyo. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? We're adjourned.